Hey, welcome back to the Backyard Professor videos. I'm going to do a prepper video for you. I've got a fun little project that I want to do. Hopefully, got a lot of traffic today. I'm sorry about that. Hope the noise isn't too bad, but I'm doing this in my backyard. I've got a fun little project you can do with the kids if they're bored, or as a fun little prepper item for you if you decide to go on a hike and you need to pack light. I'm going to show you how to make a pop can stove. It's an alcohol burning stove, and these little things are a lot of fun to do. And you don't need power tools, and you don't need any carpenter skills or anything like that. So let's jump right on to this, and I'll show you everything you need, and I'll show you how I make mine. My table's all messed up because we had a rainstorm the other day. You need one of these. This is a little push pin for the bulletin boards. The pin itself is 1/16 of an inch. We're going to make these. We're going to make little pop can stoves. This is my Arizona Tea can, which is slightly larger than a regular pop can stove, and they're a lot of fun. These are the penny can stoves. You'll need a couple of cans of empty aluminum cans, of course, from pop or beer or whatever. Just have some aluminum cans. You'll need a pair of scissors, and you'll need a measuring stick. I just took a piece of aluminum and measured out. So I like to have a sanding block and a pin. And that's pretty much it. So, the first thing you want to do is look at the bottom of your can and make sure that there's no dents or anything like that. Now, a lot of people try to make this really scientific. They get a block of wood and they put a razor blade on top of the block of wood that measures exactly 1.5 inches, and then they cut the line. And they cut the height of the can. The majority of them are 1.5 inches, but I've discovered that for efficiency and burning length, 2 inches is vastly superior. For real, I'm not kidding. So all you do is you eyeball it. You get your measuring stick, right? Let me see if I can get this closer. You get your measuring stick, and you're going to eyeball from the bottom of the can. You're going to grab your Sharpie marker, and you eyeball 2 inches up, and I just make a little mark like that on the can. Then I rotate that mark to the 2-inch mark and make another one. It does not have to be exact. It's not going to affect how the stove will burn at all. So you can be exact if you want and spend some extra time doing that. It's not necessary. Then I just connect the line. All I want to do is show you how to make these. If you really want to make it absolutely the exact same height everywhere, you go ahead and measure fussy. Do this with both cans. There's one can, then here's the second can, and you're just gonna, again, eyeball it to the 2-inch mark, make your mark. You don't even have to make your mark exact, because you're going to be able to keep it more or less straight when you cut this with the scissors. You can use a razor blade, but if some people are afraid of razor blade, everybody knows how to use scissors, right? So use the scissors. They're very simple. They make these pop cans really skinny anyway out of aluminum. They make them as chintzy as they can. So once you have your 2 pop cans marked, now we're ready to do the cutting. Okay, to cut into the can, we want the bottom part of the can good. Just snip it. There's your whole piece of cake. It's so easy, it's embarrassing. And then cut close to your line, and then straighten out your scissors along that line and just cut along the line. It'll be approximately 2 inches. Again, you do not have to have this perfect in order for it to work. That's it. There's your height here is 2 inches. A 2 inch as opposed to a 1.5 inch will hold a lot more fluid, which means it will burn longer. Same thing, just snip a hole in there. Snip a hole and start cutting around the line. Cut the top part of the can off. It's very simple. Any pair of scissors will do. You don't have to have any special implements. Cut off the... Now, I have this sanding block. If you've got kids, if you're doing this with kids, you don't want them to cut themselves. So I just sand the edge real quick. Not a big deal. Sand the edge like that in case there's any sharp. You don't want to cut yourself. In case there's any sharp edges, every now and then aluminum will have a little sliver along there. You don't want to get an aluminum sliver. Those hurt. Just like that. Okay, there's the next step that we're done with. Some people like to cut the holes in the can before cutting the can apart. You can do it either way, before or after. They say it's more stable as a whole can, and technically it is, but with the push pin method of pushing holes into the tin can, the aluminum is thicker on the bottom than it is on the sides, so it's a little hard for some people. So I use a drill. For the penny can, you want to take a drill bit that's somewhat bigger than a 1/16. You want to find the center. Again, you don't have to be totally exact. It'll still work. And then drill a hole right through the center. Woo! Just like that. And that's why people like to use the can before you cut it. But you want a larger hole. Now I'll show you. You can push with the pin 4 smaller holes fairly close to that large hole. Okay, so let's do that. 1, then do another one completely across from it. 2, and then do one perpendicular to those 2. 3, just like a little cross, and then 4. And this will be the hole that you put your fuel in, and you cover it with a penny. You want to use a penny that's pre-1980. I've heard some people say 83, because you'll put the penny over it like that once you get the can started, the stove started. That will force, we're going to cut holes all the way around this rim here. Putting the penny through that hole will force the vapors out, and it will help it burn better once it gets primed, warmed up. So there's your first holes. Now for these holes, I'm going to use my drill, and I'm going to use a 1/16 inch bit. I just personally find that better. If you don't have any power tools, the idea is you can do it by hand, and you certainly can. Now I've read online from some YouTubers and bloggers that when they cook with their penny can stove, it leaves too much soot on their equipment, so they don't like using certain types of alcohols, like the isopropyl alcohol, 70%. What they're doing is they are not they're not drilling enough holes in this edge, because the soot is uncombustible fuel, right? Uncombusted fuel. So they're not getting enough of an air fuel or an air vapor mixture. The cure to that is smaller holes and more of them. So let's do some holes. It's a piece of cake. You see that little lip right there, that ridge? You're going to put your drill bit at a 45-degree angle right at the bottom of that ridge. And then drill in at a 45-degree angle. Just like that. And then go straight across. Again, this does not have to be symmetrically perfect at all. It's not going to ruin how it burns if you're not exactly perfect. So we're going to try to make, now I've seen most of them, they will drill 16 holes, and that's what my first one is. It's got 16 different holes in it. I'm going to do more than that. Then once you get the 4 holes, 2 across and 2 across, then you go in between each one of them. So we'll go in between each one of them. See, you can see how much fun the kids would have with this. You got to be a little more careful if you cut the top off first before drilling the holes. This is probably a smidgen easier to do with a whole can, but it's not critical. There, now we've got holes in between the holes. Now we do more holes in between all those holes. The more holes, the better the chance that the vapors have of combusting, mixing with more air. It'll be, when you light this, after it's primed, the flames will be blue. They'll probably be yellow at first, which means they're not burning as hot. And then they turn blue, which is really pretty. It's a nice looking color blue. Okay, now there. Now we have 16 holes, but I'm going to do some more holes in it so that there are more holes. See how easy this is? I mean, even I can do this. And if I can do this, anybody can. So there's a hole. There's a hole. There's a hole. There's a hole. Yeah, baby, this is going to be a holy stove if I'm not careful. They're not exact, equidistant. They don't need to be. Retighten that a little bit. And you say, dude, that's a lot of holes. It is a lot of holes, and that's what you want. You want a lot of holes so that will burn the fuel more efficiently, which will mean less soot. Okay? So we've got this will be your top, and then this is the bottom. Now we want to take a pair of needle nose. I lied, you need needle nose. I use my Leatherman. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. I use Leatherman every day. I've seen people put the crimps in the top. We want to fit these two halves together, right? But you have to crimp one of them. I like crimping the bottom. A lot of people like crimping the top and put the top inside the bottom. I like it the other way. It's a matter of preference. If you overfill it, then it'll spill out. So what? You're gonna burn it anyway. So I like going right to where the curvature. I like going into that depth. And you want to try to make it even. And then just crimp. Move over a 1/4 inch and crimp, 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 crimp and twist, crimp and twist, crimp and twist. Nothing major, no difficulty here. Crimp and twist, and that will give you, a smaller circle to which you can take this top part and put it over the bottom part and then push it together. But before you do that, you want to put a little insulation in. Insulation won't burn, it's not going to hurt it. I like to put, you can see how the insulation is layered like that. The batting is layered. You don't want to mash this down. You want that in there just like that. So That might be a little big. Yeah, that's a little big, so I'm going to cut just a little bit off. Just cut it with the scissors, not a big deal. And then you take that piece of insulation. Now I'm going to cut just a little more off. There we go. Take that little baby and just put it right down in that can. Don't mash it down super duper hard. I'm going to peel off part of that top layer. That was pretty thick, just to put some insulation in. Just like that. Piece of cake. And now the tricky part for this is you want to put this top on the bottom. And you can fit it. You can see how easy that fit. Now a lot of people crush it with their hands. They tighten it with their hands. You can do that, but you want to be careful, because if you're pushing too hard, you're going to cram this part way up in there and it'll be crooked. So what I like to do is tap this down. And I'm speaking from experience, unfortunately. I would rather just take the back of this, tap it down so that it's tight, like so. And then turn it, tap, 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 turn it, tap, 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 turn it, tap, 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 turn it, tap, tap, tap. You want to tap it so that this bottom part, so that this cut part just gets to this rim. Now there's some people who will insist on putting this beneath this rim so that you can then bend this over and it'll hold it together. You can do that. There's other people who will use JB weld before they put the cans together. They'll put some JB weld on this and then squish this together so it'll dry. You can do that. For the purposes of the demonstration, I'm just going to do it without any kind of welding. I've also seen guys use the silver aluminum tape to tape it together. That stuff is pricey though. I just like to keep tapping it until it's nice and tight. And that's going to be nice and tight. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, so you can see that this lip is right down real close to that bottom, and there's your little stove. It's about 2 inches tall instead of 1.5, and the difference in weight is completely negligible. Now at this point, because there are ridges along here and it might be sharp, I know there's some people who steel wool the whole can so that it's nothing but silver, and then they put all kinds of cool designs on it. You can do that. I've seen some guys put a rivet, a grommet in the middle to make it look cool and finished. You can dress these up a million ways if you want. I do like to take my sanding block and sand along this ridge right here so that it's smooth and so that you know there are no aluminum slivers that will come up and stick you as slivers, because those are painful. It's much better to have this smooth. If you want to make these for a Christmas present, there's no end of variety of designs and ways to make these look really cool and nice and all that. If you want to take that kind of time, you can. I'm not going to in this video. At this point, I'm just showing you how to make the can. So there's the bottom, there's the top, and then the flames. Let me show you this in a darker room. Before I do that though, it's best when you want to put one of these things out not to blow on it, because it is an open flame and it's fluid alcohol. Just take an extra can, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut right along where the paint stops, and we're going to cut the bottom of this can off. Piece of cake. You cut your hole, right? You come down to where the paint is and cut that along the edge, just like so. Just cut it along that edge so that you have a lid. And again, you don't have to have it exact. There's your lid. And what you do is, to put this out, you'll simply take this lid and drop it on top, and that will extinguish the flame. Don't immediately grab this after you used it, because of course you've had fire, and fire is hot. I'm just saying. So that's a handy way to put it out. All right, let's go test this bad boy. Now, to test these is real simple. You'll need your penny and yellow heat. You can buy this stuff at gas stations all the time. It's gas line cleaner. This is methyl alcohol. You can use isopropyl alcohol 91%. You can use isopropyl alcohol 70%. Methyl alcohol is as easy to use as any of them. You pour a little bit in. Try not to get this stuff on you if you can help it. If you do, just wash it off real quick. And do not drink it, for crying out loud. There's actually people who try to drink stuff like this. Don't do that. I can't fathom that. This is poison in its liquid form. It'll cause blindness and death. Your liver assimilates this and turns it into formaldehyde. So don't drink the junk. You can burn it for heat, and I put way too much, but this is for a demonstration. Now, let's light this thing. Alright, you want to get your penny ready, and now what you'll do is you'll light it, and it'll prime it. It'll prime it for a minute. See if I can get this thing lit. There, it started. Now you can't see it, so let me shut the light off. The flame is very minimal at first, and what it has to do is it has to get it hot enough to boil it. Okay, so once it's lit, you want to put the penny over that hole. And that'll force the flames through those side holes, right? It'll boil the fluid. This is priming it. It'll boil the fluid in there into a vapor, and it'll force the vapor through the holes. And there's your little penny stove. Isn't that fun? So with this thing, I found with the 2-inch tall units that I can cook for 45 minutes. When I fill these with fuel, they'll cook for 45 minutes, which is really cool. The Arizona T1, which is also 2 inches tall, but it's a bigger diameter round. This thing will hold enough fuel to burn for 50 minutes. So the difference is about 5 minutes between a regular pop can and an Arizona T can. But, you know, for 45 minutes, I've seen one video guy where he said, there's not enough in the 1.5-inch tall to burn for 15 minutes. I mean, they have contests trying to get the best burn efficiency, and they burn it for 15 minutes, and they're really crowing about that. I found that adding just an extra 1/2 inch gives me an extra half an hour once I fill these with heat, no joke. So, there's enough time to put on a pot of 3 or 4 cups of water, boil it, and have a cup of coffee with your hiking partner. And you can make a stand that you can cook your breakfast for both of you. You could cook 8 or 9 slabs of bacon with 5 or 6 eggs, do some scrambled eggs and all. You have plenty of time to do that. You'll notice it's turned blue. You'll see a little bit of yellow, but boy, you can feel the heat. Woo, woo, woo. The blue is what you want. And that's because I punctured more holes in it, and it gives the chance for the air to mix with the vapors better, and so it leaves less soot on your cooking utensils. This won't leave any soot very much at all because of that blue flame. So that's a wonderful demonstration of these cool little stoves. I will show you how to make a cook stand in my next video. It's a sturdy little stand. It's really nice, and it's very compact, and it's very lightweight. It's not my idea. I did not invent it. I'm taking it from another YouTube video, but I'll show you how I make it and how you can make your own, and then you can unfold it and put it in your backpack, and it's ultralight, just a couple of grams. There's no extra weight. The difference in weight between a 2-inch tall and a 1.5-inch tall is minimal. I mean, seriously. So there you have the wonderful pop can cook stove. Don't forget your penny. That's the downside. You got to have a penny, and technically a penny pre-1980 because they filled them with too much zinc after that year. I've heard 1980 and I've heard 1983, so anything in the 1970s or below is best to use because you don't want, the zinc will give off vapors that you don't want to breathe. And this methyl alcohol, heat is methyl alcohol, and you don't want to drink it. You don't want to, you know, be careful with it. It's very flammable, as you can see. The downside of this is we're in an open flame, so it's best if you can do it in an enclosed area. But on the other hand, they say the fumes of methyl alcohol is not real good to breathe over a long period of time. But if all you're going to do is cook, you can't use this to heat the inside of a house, of course, one that's not big enough. But you can use it if you're in a little cave area or if you're in a little shelter. You can use it to warm your hands up. And I mean, it's real nice heat. And it'll last for 40 minutes. So wonderful little cook stoves. I will demonstrate the stand next, and then I will cook up some, I think I've got some venison I want to cook along with some scrambled eggs. And I'll show you how well my stand works. And again, the way to put these out is real simple. You have your extra little lid, remember? We cut it real thin, right down to the paint. Don't blow it out. You don't want to blow this out. Just, whoops, just grab that lid and pop it on top. Just like that. Simple schmimple. Very fun to do. It's a good little project to do with kids. Be careful with the alcohol. It is flammable. I would suggest doing it on a metal table or down on the ground. Don't do it inside on your favorite coffee table. It's made out of wood. Sometimes the heat will spill and it'll get on the surface, and when you light it, it'll all light up, so be careful that way. Don't have any loose clothing, etc. Just be smart, be safe, but have some fun. So, okay, you guys, thanks for watching. You guys have a great day. Be good, do happy, be well, have fun, and make a project. It's a fun way to spend a half an hour or so with some kids.